Billionaire discovers heartwarming truth after Black Waitress reveals life-changing hidden gesture. Every morning, behind the buzz of caffeine and clinking plates, billionaire David Harrington settled into his usual booth at the downtown diner. The garish neon lights buzzed like an electric pulse, illuminating Mariah's warm smile as she poured his coffee. She was an anchor in a swirling sea of chaos, embodying the heart of this struggling urban community. Amidst David's world of plush offices and stock market numbers, he found solace in the familiar comfort of eggs and fresh coffee served by Mariah, who juggled orders with grace and infectious laughter. Mariah wasn't just a waitress. She was a fighter. A single mother, she worked 2 jobs, her fierce love for her daughter Ava propelling her through daily exhaustion. With each cup of coffee she served, she poured her dreams of a culinary future for Ava, a future that often felt out of reach. Her kindness radiated throughout the diner, offering free meals to veterans and the down and out who wandered in. Patrons shared their stories, their laughter mixing with the scent of bacon and maple syrup, creating a community tapestry woven with hope and heartache. As David sipped his coffee, he noticed how Mariah effortlessly connected with everyone. It was both refreshing and perplexing to him. While he was trapped in a world of corporate ambition, Mariah was truly living her life, a whirlwind of challenges, generosity, and unbreakable spirit. He began engaging her in conversations, intrigued by the strength woven into her everyday life, each dialogue peeling back layers of resilience and sacrifice. One crisp morning, as David sipped from his steaming cup, he noticed the worried lines etched deeper on Mariah's face. "You okay?" he asked, and for a moment, the diner's familiar sounds faded. She hesitated, the weight of eviction looming over her like a dark cloud. Her rent was skyrocketing, making it impossible to stay in her little apartment filled with memories. "Just another day," she replied, forcing a smile that couldn't mask the turmoil beneath. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. David, feeling the weight of her struggle, rushed to offer help, thinking cash could solve her problems. But Mariah's fierce pride shone through. "I can't accept charity," she insisted, and for the first time, David grappled with a stark realization. His money couldn't buy dignity. It was a pivotal moment, forcing him to confront the privilege he often overlooked. Just as tension bubbled, a rumor spread through the diner about Mariah's quiet acts of kindness. The hidden news of her generosity towards veterans started to seep into David's consciousness. With each whispered tale, he recognized an unsung hero in her, a woman who chose to uplift others even while grappling with her own hardships. In a moment of inspiration, David decided to organize a community fundraiser in her honor. This initiative felt right. It aimed not just to help Mariah, but to illuminate her heart and spirit to the very community she had nourished. But as the plans took shape, unexpected barriers loomed, threatening both Mariah's spirit and the fragile connections forged between them. As the clock ticked down to the event, David stood at a crossroads, emotions swirling. Would he embrace a new understanding of community? Would their journey ultimately redefine both their lives? The battle between privilege and dignity hung in the air, ready to unveil the heart of their story. The day of the fundraiser arrived under a blanket of gray clouds, casting a somber shadow over the downtown diner. David stood outside, watching as the community gathered, some he recognized, others mere silhouettes against the horizon of the diner's neon glow. Excitement mixed with anxiety churned in his stomach. This day meant so much more than a simple event. It felt like the culmination of all he had learned about humility and connection. Inside, Mariah was oblivious to the preparations in her honor. She was hustling between tables, pouring coffee and pushing past the excited chatter. David couldn't help but admire her as he caught glimpses of her hard work and determination. Yet, underneath that resolute exterior lay a flicker of uncertainty. He wondered how she would react when she learned what he had planned. The clock struck 6, and the diner filled with patrons, friends, and well-wishers, all ready to support Mariah. David, nervously adjusting his tie, stepped up on a makeshift stage. At that moment, the chatter quieted, leaving an air thick with curiosity. "Thank you all for being here tonight," he began, his voice a mixture of reverence and excitement. "We gather not just to celebrate this wonderful community, but to honor someone who represents its very heart, Mariah." He scanned the crowd, taking in the network of faces, some lit with joy, others clouded with the burdens they bore. But they all shared a common thread, woven together through life as struggles and little victories. As he described how Mariah had quietly supported those in need without a second thought, whispers of admiration rippled through the room. He spoke of her selflessness, her dedication to her daughter, and her commitment to making the diner a space of warmth. With every word, he felt the weight of his own ignorance lifted, allowing the importance of the moment to shine through. But in the back of his mind, anxiety still tugged. What if Mariah rejected his recognition? What if in her eyes, he remained that wealthy stranger who only understood life from a distance? David's heart raced as he prepared to reveal the centerpiece of the night, a fundraiser meant to alleviate her burdens. A cookbook filled with contributions from local chefs, highlighted by Mariah's own unique recipes, was ready to go. It wasn't just a means to raise money. It was a testament to her role in the community. Just as he unveiled the plan, he noticed Mariah in the crowd, her eyes widening in disbelief. For a moment, it felt as if the entire world had narrowed to just the two of them. The diner's noise faded into a background hum. Would she perceive this gesture as genuine or as another intrusion from his privileged world? Mariah stepped forward slowly, her expression a mixture of confusion and emotion. She held her breath, listening intently. "Mariah, we know you've done so much for us. Tonight, we want to give back to you," David said, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. "Let this be a reminder that you are seen, valued, and loved in this community." Just as he finished speaking, he caught the glimmer of tears forming in Mariah's eyes. Her emotions danced on the edge of joy and vulnerability. Before any response escaped her lips, the crowd erupted into applause, lifting the tension that had loomed. But even as the claps echoed, David couldn't shake the feeling of impending conflict. What had he triggered with this outpouring of acknowledgement? He saw the tightness in her jaw, and the downcast gaze that spoke volumes. In that moment, amidst the laughter and cheers, a shadow of uncertainty fell over Mariah. She stood frozen at the pivot of celebration and humility, battling the deep-rooted feelings of inadequacy and pride. What would she say? Would she embrace this outpouring of community support, or would it push her further into the depths of her struggles and prideful resistance? As she took a step forth, lungs full of air, the silence returned. What would happen next? Mariah stood at the edge of the crowd, her heart racing like a runaway train. A whirlwind of emotions swirled inside her chest. She had spent so long being the one to support others. Now, with everyone looking at her, she felt exposed and unsure. David watched her closely. He could see the conflict in her eyes, the hope flickering alongside fear. He wanted to reassure her, but he was helpless to do anything from the stage. As the applause faded, Mariah finally found her voice. I don't know what to say." Her words came out shaky, like leaves trembling in a breeze. She looked around the diner, taking in the faces of those she had served, those she had helped. Her friends and neighbors were here, all gathered to lift her up in a way she never anticipated. "I never asked for anything from anyone," she said, her lips pressing together tightly. "Maybe you didn't, David interjected gently, sensing the wall she was putting up. "But that doesn't mean you're not deserving of support. You've given so much to this community. It's time we give back, time we show you how much you are truly valued here." The crowd nodded in agreement. Murmurs of support filled the air. A few people yelled out phrases like "You're our heart, Mariah," and "We love you." The warmth of their words wrapped around her, softening the edges of her anxiety. Yet, Mariah felt a knot tighten in her stomach. What she saw as gratitude felt heavy. "But I'm just a waitress," she said, a tremor in her voice. "I'm not special. I don't need this." The moment hung thick with tension. David took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words. "You don't have to be special to deserve kindness. Everyone has a story, Mariah. Yours matters. Your impact matters." As he spoke, he could see the flickering light of understanding dancing in her eyes. Still, it was clouded by uncertainty. The applause was now a soft echo, giving way to an almost reverent silence. Each second stretched out, creating a bridge between their worlds. "Please," he added, voice earnest. "Let us show you we see you. Don't let pride keep you from accepting the love that is being offered tonight." Slowly, Mariah nodded. Tears spilled over and traced paths down her cheeks. With a trembling hand, she wiped at her eyes, trying to compose herself. Okay, she whispered, her voice breaking. "If it means so much to you all, I'll try." The crowd erupted into another round of applause, and this time Mariah felt a flicker of warmth inside her, a small flame of acceptance. In that moment, she realized the fundraiser wasn't just about her. It was about community, connection, and the shared experiences that knit them all together. As the night rolled on, David felt the tide of relief and joy wash over him. The fundraiser took on a life of its own, with laughter and stories blending into the aroma of comfort food wafting through the diner. Mariah moved among her patrons, accepting hugs, laughter, and support, slowly finding comfort in the warmth of community spirit. But as the night wore on, David could still see the glimmer of doubt in Mariah's eyes. Later, in the midst of celebration, would they be able to break through her insecurities? What hidden struggles still lay beneath the surface, waiting to emerge? When the applause faded, he watched her dance lightly with her daughter, both of them a blend of laughter and connection. Yet the shadows loomed beneath their smiles. What would happen when the night ended, and they returned to reality? David's heart was full, but his mind was heavy with questions. Was this moment enough to truly shift her perspective? As Mariah paused and caught his eye, a flicker of uncertainty still lingered within her gaze. What other truths would each of them uncover by the end of this night? Mariah felt the energy of the crowd wrapping around her like a warm blanket. Each cheer, each embrace was a small reminder that this community cared for her more than she had ever allowed herself to believe. Yet, even as the laughter swirled and the clapping continued, a small voice inside her whispered doubts she had carried for a long time. "Mariah, you have to see this." Jenny, her best friend since childhood, waved her over, her excitement bubbling over as she pointed to a fundraising table filled with homemade goods. "Look at all the donations. People really stepped up." Mariah forced a smile as she made her way through the bustling crowd. The tables were lined with baked goods, baskets with handmade crafts, and even a small section dedicated to artwork from local kids. It all felt so surreal. She had never imagined such a response, such generosity being directed at her. "But why?" she questioned, bringing her hand to her mouth. "I don't deserve this, Jenny." "Every person here wants you to see what you mean to them," Jenny replied, her eyes sparkling with warmth. "You've always been there for us. Tonight is just a little slice of how much we appreciate you." Mariah's heart ached at the truth in her friend's words. But deep inside, the question lingered, was she truly worthy of this love? As she approached the baked goods, an elderly man stepped forward, a smile lighting up his wrinkled face. "Mariah, dear," he said, his voice raspy but kind. "I remember when you gave me that soup on a cold winter night. It meant the world to me. You were a bright spot when things felt heavy." She blinked back tears, wishing she could absorb every compliment without feeling like a fraud. "But I was just doing my job, no," he interjected firmly but gently. "You were doing much more than that. You were being you." With each story shared, with each heartfelt interaction, Mariah felt another layer of her defenses peeling away. Yet, the gnawing doubt remained a weight in her chest. It was getting harder to ignore the truth creeping beneath the surface. Was she really deserving of this kind of love? David watched from afar, catching snippets of Mariah's encounters. He could see how the crowd was lifting her up, yet he couldn't shake the concern etched across her face. She accepted the praise with grace, yet her spirit seemed tenuous, as if teetering between joy and fear. Suddenly, the lights flickered, momentarily dimming the diner. A hushed silence fell over the crowd. The atmosphere shifted, creating a palpable suspense. Everyone turned their attention to the flickering lights, and before long, they were back to normal. Mariah felt her heart skip. For a fleeting moment, she feared that the glow of the night might dim like those lights. "Listen, everyone!" David suddenly called out, standing tall at the front, ready to address the crowd. "Before we wrap up, I want us to take a moment to share what Mariah means to each of us." The room erupted into a chorus of voices, snippets of love and gratitude flooding the air. Mariah took a step back, overwhelmed. As some stepped forward to share their stories of her kindness, her heart swelled, yet still, she found herself grappling with something deeper, something almost primal: self-acceptance. Just then, a young girl, maybe 10 years old, tugged on Mariah's apron. "Miss Mariah, you helped me find my way home when I was lost. You're like my superhero." Her words struck like lightning. It was a reminder that even the smallest gestures could create ripples in lives, a notion that terrified and thrilled her at once. Mariah kneeled to the girl's level, swallowing hard. "Do you really think I'm a superhero?" "Of course. You make people feel better just by being you." The girl beamed, her voice ringing true. Feeling warmth seep into her heart, Mariah clutched her chest, fighting against the flood of emotions. Was this night changing her? Could it help her face the truth of her own worth? As the stories continued and the room filled with collective support, David watched Mariah's journey shift in real time. He could see her internal battle, the cogs turning in her mind. What new layers would she discover in this outpouring of love? Would tonight mark the beginning of a different path for her? Could she learn to embrace the kindness she had always offered others? As the noise of the diner echoed around them, the simmering questions grew. What would Mariah do next? Would she finally accept the community's love, or would her doubts lead her back to hiding in the shadows? The noise of the diner filled the air, a comforting hum that wrapped around Mariah like the embrace she desperately craved. She could hear the laughter and warmth, but it felt distant as she stood there, lost in her thoughts. The young girl's words echoed in her mind. Superhero! Could she really be that to someone? I guess I never thought of it that way," she managed, voice barely a whisper as she watched the girl skip back to her friends. As the crowd shared more anecdotes, Mariah felt a shift inside her, as if something dormant was waking up. Each story was a brick, laying down a path that she could either choose to walk or ignore. David stepped forward again, looking her way, his eyes filled with compassion. "Mariah," he said powerfully, "you don't just brighten our days. You change lives." The room erupted in applause, but the noise felt muffled to her. Does everyone really see me that way? It was surreal. The praise felt like sunlight breaking through heavy clouds, but she was still standing in the shadow, gripping her apron with trembling fingers. "Let me tell you," Ginny spoke up, drawing her closer. "When my dad was sick, you sat with me at that hospital night after night. You listened. You didn't even have to say much. You were just there. And that meant everything. Mariah's heart twisted painfully. But I was just being a friend, Ginny. No, you were being a lifeline. Sometimes it feels like we have burdens too heavy to bear, and you lighten that load. As Ginny spoke, so many emotions surged through Mariah: fear, sadness, joy. Will I ever truly believe that? She thought bitterly, the doubts creeping back, whispering lies in her ear. Another voice rang out from the back, a familiar one. Remember when I lost that big baseball game? It was Tony, the town's spirited little league coach. You showed up with cupcakes for all the boys, even after they lost. It meant so much to them. His face beamed with pride, and the crowd chuckled, recalling that day. I thought those cupcakes would cheer them up, she said softly, staving off tears. It felt small. It was small, but sometimes small is exactly what we need. You reminded them that there's always a spark of joy to be found, even in disappointment, Tony replied. Her heart raced at the idea. Maybe she had stretched herself thinner than she realized, giving out kindness and care without accepting it in return. But could she really change her outlook on herself, truly believe she was worthy of this energy? David stepped closer. Mariah, this isn't just about what you've done. It's about who you are. And who you are is someone we love dearly. At that moment, she felt a shimmer of possibility, a flicker of something greater than her doubts. Could love be a mirror, reflecting back the goodness she couldn't see? The crowd surged forward, eager to share more stories, to shower her with affection, and slowly the tears won. Mariah swiped at her cheeks, feeling how free it was to be seen, yet terrified to fully let go of the fears that had lingered for so long. As laughter rang out and Mariah received another embrace, warmth flooded her heart. A phrase bounced in her mind, the superhero within. Suddenly, everything felt at a tipping point. Would she allow herself to believe that she really was enough? A shout cut through her swirling thoughts, drawing everyone's attention. Mariah? A voice boomed, slicing through the relativity of her confidence. Can we talk? I need to share something important with you. All heads turned, and just as quickly, her thoughts spiraled. What did this mean? Was this the moment she had been waiting for, or was it about to plunge her deeper into uncertainty? With her heart pounding, Mariah looked into the crowd, seeking support. What truth awaited her on the other side of this conversation? The clamor in the diner dimmed as everyone turned towards the voice calling out to Mariah. A tall figure stood at the entrance, his silhouette framed by the neon lights flickering above. It was Jake, the mysterious newcomer in town, whose presence had stirred whispers and curiosity among the regulars. Mariah felt an unexpected jolt of anxiety surge through her. Why was he looking at her? Did he know what was happening within her? Jake? David's voice cut through the tension, protective and piercing. What is going on? Jake took a step forward, his brow furrowed, contrasting against his sometimes charming, carefree demeanor. I need to speak to Mariah. It's important, really important. Mariah felt all eyes on her, probing, waiting for her to respond. The room felt electric, and she couldn't quite figure out if the spark was from fear or excitement. Heart pounding, she met Jake's gaze, searching for any hint of what could possibly warrant such urgency. Okay, she managed, her voice steadier than she felt. Can we step outside? Jake asked, his tone serious, almost urgent. With one last glance back at those who had cheered her on, she nodded, an invisible thread tugging at her heart. As she followed Jake out into the crisp evening air, the din of the diner faded behind her, and a quiet urgency enveloped them. Once outside, the night felt different, calmer. The sky was peppered with stars, yet a storm brewed within her. The streetlights illuminated Jake's worried face, revealing a vulnerability she hadn't expected. Mariah, I've been wanting to tell you something. He paused, exhaling deeply as if gathering the courage to continue. When I arrived in this town, I felt lost. But your kindness made me feel like I could belong here, even when I had almost given up. It's just not the first time I've seen your impact. Her breath hitched, confusion washing over her. What do you mean? How have I impacted you? Jake shifted, glancing down the street as if the words were hidden in the shadows. I was in a dark place, struggling with things I didn't think anyone could understand. But every time I visited the diner, you smiled at me. You always asked how I was doing, and then you genuinely listened. He stopped, meeting her gaze with piercing honesty. I might be a billionaire, but that smile, you can't buy that. The tears she'd been fighting rushed back, now mixed with gratitude. I didn't think I was doing much, she whispered, her heart swelling. But you were. You made me feel like I mattered, Jake continued. I started realizing that it was okay to be myself because of how you treated me. I want to show you the impact you've made on my life. I can help you share your light with more people if you're willing to let me. The enormity of his words sank into her. Could she let someone like him step into her world, share that space filled with her insecurities? What would it mean to accept help, to open herself up more? Deep within, she could feel something shifting again, a mixture of hope and trepidation. Jake, I appreciate that, but I need to think, she said softly, feeling the weight of his offer. Take your time, he replied, his eyes not leaving hers. Just know you're not alone anymore. You really do have a superhero in you, Mariah. As she stepped back towards the diner, the warmth and laughter still rippling through the air, her mind raced. Could she embrace this new possibility? What would it look like if she allowed herself to be seen, really seen? The thought slipped through her mind like a breeze, refusing to settle, and with it came a quiet resolve. But just as she was about to re-enter the diner, a shadow loomed overhead, and she felt the pull of another surprise in the making. Mariah? A voice interrupted, bringing her back to reality. I need your help with something. Your touch could change everything. Her heart raced anew. Who else was reaching out for her in this moment of change? And what did they want? Mariah turned around, her pulse quickening. The voice belonged to Lisa, a young waitress from across town who had always been cheerful and effervescent. Lisa's smile was usually contagious, but now her face was clouded with urgency. What is going on? Mariah asked, brows furrowed, crossing her arms. The diner was just a few steps behind, filled with familiar laughter and comfort, but this moment with Lisa felt fragile like a bubble waiting to burst. I've been meaning to ask you, Lisa said, biting her lip as she shifted from one foot to the other. There's this community garden project that's struggling. We have supplies, but not enough volunteers. We want to create a space that brings everyone together, not just for food, but for laughter, for connection. Your light could really help us make it happen. Mariah took a deep breath, the weight of her turmoil mixing with this unexpected reach for her hand. She found herself yearning for that kind of connection, a community of warmth and acceptance. But doubt quickly swept in. Why would they want me? I don't, she hesitated, uncertain about her place in such a project. I'm just a waitress. There is so much more to you, Mariah, Lisa insisted. You bring everyone together without even trying. People listen when you talk. It feels real. You being there would change everything for the garden. It feels like you're meant to be part of this. The wave of admiration caught her off guard, a tremor of disbelief coursing through her. Did Lisa really see her that way? There was a magic in those words that lifted her heart, but still, a whisper of fear crammed itself into the cracks of this potential. I don't know if I'm ready for that, she replied, her voice barely rising above a whisper. Do you remember how you helped me organize that fundraiser last year? Lisa pressed, her eyes shimmering. I wasn't sure I could do it, but you pushed me to just share my ideas. It made all the difference. If you could do that for me, What do you think you could do for others? Mariah felt herself crack open a little, the walls she had built trembling as her heart fluttered. The truth was, even with Jake's compliment, she had often felt invisible, unseen, unworthy. Could this be a path to claim a part of herself she had buried? "I'll think about it," she finally said, her voice finding resonance in the night air. "I just need some time." "Of course," Lisa said, her smile returning, brighter than before. "Just remember, every single person in this town needs a little bit of light, and yours shines the brightest." As Lisa walked away, her words echoed in the quiet night. Mariah lingered for a moment longer, contemplating the paths laid out before her. She was caught in a whirlwind of emotions, and amid the bustling atmosphere of the diner, the world felt like it was shifting. On one end, there was Jake the billionaire offering his support and a glimpse into a brighter future. On the other, there was the garden, an embodiment of connection that felt like it could nurture not just the soil, but her spirit. Taking a deep breath, she turned back to the diner, uncertainty swirling like the night's breeze. Would she dare to embrace this new possibility? Would she follow the seeds of hope being planted around her? As she stepped through the door, a familiar warmth enveloped her, blocking out the chill of uncertainty. But at that moment, she also spotted Jake again, now deep in conversation with David the Protector. Suddenly, a shadow broke over her heart. What would happen if David discovered the truth about Jake's past? What if he tried to pull them apart before she could even decide what she wanted? The air crackled with anticipation, and Mariah felt her pulse quicken once more. What choices lay ahead of her, and who would ultimately define her journey? Mariah slipped through the diner's door, the familiar sounds of clinking mugs and soft laughter wrapped around her like a comforting blanket. But the warmth couldn't stifle the unease brewing in her chest. Jake was still hunched over the counter, deep in conversation with David. Their discussion was animated, punctuated by gestures that told her more than the words ever could. David's brow was furrowed with concern, and as she took her usual spot behind the counter, she couldn't help but wonder how much David really knew about Jake. She tried to focus on the orders piling up near the grill, but the weight of uncertainty felt like an anchor weighing her down. What complicated history lay beneath Jake's polished surface? The carefree banter? The booming laughter? Was it all just a facade? Mariah couldn't shake the feeling that something crucial was lurking just out of reach. Her thoughts spun like leaves in a whirlwind, and when Jake finally turned to her, his blue eyes sparkled with that boyish charm she had come to admire. "Hey, Mariah," he called out, his voice cutting through her spiraling worries. "How is the best waitress in town doing tonight?" "Just trying to keep up," she replied, forcing a smile while she poured coffee for a customer. The way he looked at her stirred something deep within, an urge to reach out, a desire to bridge the gap. "Did you get my text?" he asked, leaning against the counter, casual but intent. Her heart raced. "About what?" "The garden project," he said, enthusiasm bubbling in his voice. "I think it's brilliant. I'd love to help out financially or otherwise. It's something that could really change the community." Mariah felt warmth wash over her at his words, but hesitation tugged at her heart. Could his interest in the garden be genuine? Or was it another one of those grand gestures that people like him were known for? "I'm still thinking about it," she managed, her voice softer now. "Don't overthink it," he said, a hint of concern flashing across his face. "Just let your heart lead you. You've got a passion that people gravitate toward." His confidence in her sparked something new, a flicker of hope. But a flicker of doubt nagged at her. "I don't know if I'm ready to jump into something like that," she admitted, her eyes searching his. Jake's expression softened, and a silence settled between them, raw and unguarded. Mariah felt a shift, like their barriers were being worn down. All the noise around them faded to a hushed whisper. Before she could respond, David interjected, placing a firm hand on Jake's shoulder. You should tread carefully, man, he warned, glancing sharply at Mariah. You don't know this town like we do. Things aren't always what they seem. Mariah's stomach twisted. Did he mean to threaten or protect? The tension hung in the air, heavy and thick. She felt caught in a crossfire of loyalties, one man offering dreams and connection, the other cloaked in mystery and caution. Thanks for the heads up, David, Jake replied lightly, but Mariah could see the creases form on his forehead. Feeling her world spin, Mariah took a step back. Maybe I will take some time to think things over, she said slowly. As she turned to grab a fresh pot of coffee, she caught David's eyes dark and searching, like he held some secret just out of reach. What did he know? Could she trust Jake? And as she wrestled with her thoughts, the door swung open, a gust of wind sending a chill through the diner. In walked a stranger with an air of authority, his presence commanding attention. The diner fell silent, and Mariah's heart raced again. What was about to unfold in this moment? Would it bring clarity or further confusion to her choices ahead? The atmosphere shifted instantly as the stranger stepped inside, shaking off the cold while scanning the diner. He wore a tailored coat that exuded wealth and authority, and his eyes took in every detail. It was as if he were judging the room, marking it against some invisible standard. Mariah felt an electric tension invade her chest. She could tell the stranger wasn't just a passing diner. Can I help you? David called from behind the counter, breaking the heavy silence. The man approached with a confident stride, his gaze focused on Jake. I'm looking for Jacob Hargrove. I heard he might be here. His voice was smooth, but there was an edge that made Mariah's skin crawl. Concern flickered across Jake's face as he straightened himself, the charm he usually wore now slipping. Yeah, that's me, Jake replied, his voice steady yet cautious. I've got a business proposition for you, the stranger said, a smirk playing on his lips. It's about the new project downtown. I believe you'd be a valuable asset. Mariah's heart raced. She could sense that whatever was about to transpire could change things for all of them, especially Jake. She stepped closer, eavesdropping from behind the coffee machine, hoping to catch every word. Not interested, Jake said quickly, his tone flat. The smirk faltered. You should reconsider, Jake. Opportunities like this don't come knocking twice. And let us be real, I know your family needs this. Jake's jaw clenched, his posture suddenly rigid. Mariah's stomach twisted. Family? What was the stranger implying? She took a deep breath, her mind racing as she processed his insinuation. Should she step in? Should she say something? David, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper, do you know who this guy is? David shook his head, eyes narrowed at the stranger, clearly assessing him. Never seen him before. But keep your distance, Mariah. The tension crackled in the air like a summer storm. Everything felt amplified. The clinking of cutlery, the low murmur of other patrons, the furtive glances exchanged between David and Jake. Mariah felt cornered within her own thoughts, wanting to help but fearing the repercussions of getting involved. I know what you're trying to do, Jake said, shaking his head slowly. And it won't work. You don't know what you're passing up, the man shot back, a flash of anger piercing his voice. You think you're above this town, but trust me, you're not as safe as you think. Jake stood tall, defiance radiating from him. But Mariah saw the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes, and it tugged at her heart. He was trying to protect something profound, his past, his family, or perhaps even her. As the stranger loomed closer, the situation spiraled dangerously toward a breaking point. Mariah felt compelled to intervene. Is everything okay here? She asked, taking a bold step forward, her voice steady despite the flutter in her chest. All attention shifted to her. The stranger's gaze turned icy, while Jake seemed grateful yet startled. Just a business discussion, sweetheart, he replied, his tone dismissive yet condescending. "But it doesn't he look like a friendly one," she countered, heart pounding. She felt the eyes of the diner now resting on her, fueling her resolve. Suddenly, the man's demeanor morphed. "You shouldn't he get involved," he warned, an unmistakable threat shadowing his words. Mariah's breath caught, the chill of his tone freezing the air around her. She felt a surge of determination mixed with fear, wondering if she had just crossed an invisible line. "Why don't you share what you really want, and let us all decide?" she challenged, stealing a glance at Jake, whose gaze flickered with appreciation and concern. The stranger's calm facade cracked just enough for her to see the predator lurking beneath. The diner held its breath as everyone waited for the next move. In that moment, as the tension peaked, Mariah sensed that their lives might change irrevocably. But what was this encounter truly about, and would they have the courage to face whatever lay ahead? Mariah felt the weight of the room as silence settled in, a thick fog of uncertainty twisting in the air. She stood her ground, heart racing, muscles tense and ready. The stranger's thin smile had revealed the sharp edge of menace, and she sensed collectively that everyone was holding their breath, waiting for the next chapter in this unexpected saga to unfold. "Listen, sweetheart," he spat out, irritation bubbling to the surface. "I'm not repeating myself. This conversation doesn't concern you." "But it does," she interjected, her voice cutting through the tension. "Jake is part of this community. If you're suggesting something that puts him at risk, then I'm involved." Courage poured out of her, buoyed up by the strength she felt from the patrons around her. Jake stood beside her, eyes widening with surprised gratitude, and for the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed the stranger's face. "You really want to defend him? You have no idea who you're dealing with," he hissed, his tone dropping to an ominous whisper. "I know exactly who Jake is," Mariah said, glancing at him, their eyes locking in shared understanding. "He is someone who cares about this town. Someone who wants to help it grow. That's worth defending." A ripple of murmurs arose from the crowd, a wave of support bubbling beneath her feet, pushing her onwards. The man's cold demeanor faltered, replaced by a flash of anger. "Those ideals don't mean anything unless you have the resources to back them up," he scoffed, scanning the diner as if sizing up its worth. "You all would be nothing without people like me." A murmur of disbelief coursed through the diner, fueled by the soft sound of disbelief intermingled with shared indignation. A waitress near the back yelled, "We don't need you. This community stands on its own." Mariah felt her heart swell. "Exactly. We're united. None of us is above the other. You don't understand what this town means to us, what we mean to each other." The stranger's arrogance began to crack, and he shifted, clearly uncomfortable. For the first time since he entered, he hesitated. "You aren't making a smart choice here," he warned, barely masking the desperation in his voice. Suddenly, David stepped forward, solid, protective. "You're unwelcome here. If you can't respect our community, I suggest you leave." His voice was resolute, technically measured but heavy with authority, and Mariah felt relief wash over her. She wasn't alone in this fight. The man eyed them, anger churning with a sense of defeat that was too palpable to ignore. With one final steely glare directed at Jake, he turned on his heel and left the diner like a storm cloud rolling away. As the door swung closed, a whoosh of released tension flooded through the diner. The silence shattered into applause, cheers rising high, echoing against the diner's walls. Mariah felt the warmth of their acceptance, but it was mingled with disbelief. She had stood up for someone, and the community had stood with her. Jake leaned slightly closer to her, a mix of admiration and surprise lighting his expression. "You didn't have to do that, but I'm so grateful you did." Mariah looked around, her heart racing. "I wasn't about to let him push you around or corner you. You matter, Jake. We all matter." The moment of connection sparked something, an understanding blossoming gently between them. And for the first time, Mariah felt like she was stepping into her own light, one that stretched beyond her roles and titles. As the chatter resumed and the warmth enveloped her, David approached, pride emanating from him. "You were incredible, Mariah," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for standing up. You've always been the heart of this place." Over the din of laughter and chatter, Mariah took a moment. The many desires and fears that had lingered within her began to dissipate like morning fog meeting the sun. Acceptance felt possible, tangible. She glanced at the remaining crowd, her diner family united. "Let us make something grow," she said, catching Jake's gaze. The seed of possibility sparked between them. Their shared resolve marked the beginning of something new, a community garden project filled with heart, laughter, and connection. Mariah realized it wasn't just about the recipes or funds. It was about fostering a legacy of support and love that she and everyone in their town so desperately needed. In the weeks that followed, as the diner buzzed with anticipation for the garden, Mariah found herself emerging from the shadows. She began organizing meetings, inviting kids to draw designs on the sidewalk, and even cooking heartfelt meals that would feed exuberant hands digging in the earth. She embraced the superhero within, reminding herself and those around her that kindness was a currency that could transform lives. As she danced with her daughter under strings of twinkling lights at the garden launch, laughter echoed around them and embrace wrapped in community spirit. Jake stood nearby, pride written all over his face. The walls of uncertainty between them crumbled into the atmosphere, replaced by a new, unbreakable bond of shared dreams. One by one, people stepped into her orbit, sharing stories of how they felt seen because of her small contributions, just like those tokens of affection offered at the fundraiser. And just like that, Mariah's fear turned into fuel. Every tear she shed was now a release of freedom, opening the door to possibilities she had once thought unreachable. She discovered that to be seen and to accept love was a transformation more profound than she had ever imagined. The sun hung low in the sky, and happiness surged through each connection forged. As Mariah glanced at her daughter, who gleamed with pride resembling her mother's, she understood this journey intertwined their destinies. They were forever tied to this vibrant tapestry, woven through years of struggle, and the triumphant emergence into their collective light. A beautiful mosaic emerged from the ashes of doubt, one that took root in the heart of a diner, flourished into a community garden, and ultimately transformed lives around them. This was the end of one chapter, but surely the stirring of many more to come. If you want to witness how Mariah and her community continue to thrive, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us grow this family of inspirational stories. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Let us spread this message together.